three of the most important things to me as a computer science major um, that we learned in this class was one, storytelling. Storytelling is huge in the field of computer science, as I'm most likely going to go in software engineering. Software engineering is where you develop softwares that don't exist yet, or something to fix a problem. But you also have to sell that problem. You have to sell that software. So, what do? You have to storytell. Build up a situation, make a story that'll convince your audience to to accept your software. So, for example, let's say I have developed a software that will automatically clean up any old files off of your computer. Now, I need to build that up. So I'll start with a story. Like, have you ever wondered why you keep on running out of space or storage on your computer? Or why your computer just continuously slows down and keeps going down in speed? Have you ever wondered why that happens? Well, that's because there's so many temporary files, so much old files on there that just are not needed anymore. So what do? We need to remove them. But where do we remove them? There's so many different places where these files are stored. Things like the TMP folder, or the temporary folder, the temporary percent folder, and so many more. But how do you keep on finding them? Well, that's what I'm here for. My software will remove these temporary files for you. That's just an example of why storytelling is such an important way, and one of the most important things that I think as a computer scientist. It will be great for me in the future, and why I think it's one of the most important aspects that I learned from this year. One of the most important things that I remember for storytelling was that one video TED Talk we watched in class where the guy was smoking on stage. He built a story around his friends and how his friend dad didn't appreciate him, and how he built a story around his son. And the story was one of the most important things I realized from there, and how important storytelling is to build an audience. The next thing that I really think is one of the most important aspects that we learned here in this class was nonverbal communication. You see my hands right here? You see how they're moving around? That's nonverbal communication. Something like eye contact. That's also something really important, but I'll just fit that all under nonverbal communication. Body language, how you're talking, if you're calm or if you're restless, if you're walking or moving, or standing still and sitting, if you're moving your head back and forth like I am, or if you're moving your hands left and right, up and down in all directions. These are nonverbal communications. Nonverbal communication is so important to computer scientists because we're going to be selling these to large scale companies. We're going to be selling what our ideas, our work, and everything around us. So having the proper body language is something that shows confidence in yourself. And without that confidence, no one's going to invest in your idea. Without the right seller, in the right mood, in the right body language, because these people are smart. They're going to look at you, they're going to look through any charade that you pull. So you have to have confidence. And without that confidence, you're not going to be able to do it. And body language, moving around, helps to distract you from your nerves. So that really helps amplify your presentation, moving around. If I start walking up right now, back and forth, that will really help show that, especially around if I'm doing a presentation, for example, that will really show that, hey, look at this point right here, but then I walk over here and look at this point. It's really trying to show that it's bringing attention to those points. And those points is why it's so important, because it brings attention to you by making yourself non-static. Because people get bored of seeing the same thing over and over. So you sitting there talking for 10 minutes or so, that's a boring presentation that not one wants to watch. So move around a little bit, make it appealing to them, because naturally our eyes attract movement and color. So having something a little bit eye-popping might help, like a nice tie that's completely different from your suit. If you're wearing a black suit, you might want to wear a nice lighter blue tie. So it's a little bit more eye-popping to it. That helps keep eye contact, and that's a part of just non-verbal communication. All these things that you do that are not verbal. And that's why I think it's so important to have this with the storytelling features. But the last thing I really think is important is active listening. Active listening is when I'm not talking actually. It's when you're talking. You, someone else, the audience, or somebody else in a meeting. These people, other people talking. Active listening is listening to not just their audio, not just their voice, but listening to their movements, to their body language, to their nonverbal communication. Active listening really helps bring it all together, because you have the storytelling that brings an idea to light. You have the nonverbal communication, the selling point. But you need to wrap it up with the active listening, see what they think about it, and then you counter that. That's how you're really going to survive as a computer scientist, because we have ideas, but without someone backing your idea, you have no point. So this is why I really think these 3 points are the most important points that we've seen. And learning these in this class was great. They were amazing, because it made so much difference in how I'll talk with people, and the interactions I make with people in the workforce or at school, by giving me the sight to see if people are stressed, by looking at their nonverbal communication, looking to see if they're jittery or if they're cold. Something that I really see, and active listening really helps me understand the person I'm talking to. So this is really something that's going to put a difference in my communication and the people I talk to. And it's something that's really important that I need to know, and that I think everybody else would need to know. So this is really why I say these 3 points are the top 3 points that you'll ever see as a computer scientist, at least in my perspective. So like the reflection that I've seen at doing all the persuasive speeches, informative speeches that I've done in the past, and speeches that we've done in this class, and then all the improv that we've done. It all builds that nonverbal communication, such as all the times where we got up, but you didn't let us talk to one another. Couldn't talk to one another, but we can see each other. Or when we couldn't see each other, but we can talk to one another. Both of those are nonverbal communication and active listening. And these reflections is really what helps build this interaction. And it really why these are so important, because it keeps on building up and it wraps a whole thing around. It's a full circle in that case, you could say. But there are some things I would say that could be improved in the class. One, we really didn't get to do much storytelling of ourselves. We did a few storytelling here and there. I remember I got up for one of the just random speeches we do doing in class for fun, and I brought up the story of where I used my old computers, where I learned from these. And I think this was when we were talking about how teachers should be replaced with AI or should not be replaced with AI. I'm 90% sure I brought this up then, so I'm sorry, Professor Lucchini, but it's coming back. So for example, let's say teachers should be replaced with AI. Without the storytelling I put in that speech, I don't think I could really make it an effective speech, because I had to build up a situation. What if we weren't living in a world where teachers existed? What if we were in an area where we didn't have any adults to help supervise us, or we didn't have a school to go to? That's where the What If TED Talks really helped with the nonverbal and the storytelling. That's why is that I agree it was a great subject, but I think that there could have been more storytelling throughout, and that's the only main critique I ever had of this class. So thank you.